Welcome to one mistake for every DPS hero, and how to fix it. Even if for some of the linear heroes in the game it seems like the only thing you can do wrong is miss your shots, there are a lot of easy changes to make to do more damage, die less, or even unlock a new playstyle that you haven't been using. If you're looking for more content to grind out your favorite heroes, use the link in the description to get access to a GameLeap membership. The GameLeap website has tons of guides and courses that cover any kind of knowledge and skills you might need across all roles, and even the best ways to play newer game modes and styles of play. Check it out and let's get right into the video. Ashe is a solid hero, and also pretty straightforward. You have hipfire at close range, scoped in shots at long range, your dynamite for damaging multiple heroes, and your coach gun to escape. Even though it seems pretty easy to play her right, the biggest mistake when playing her is always scoping in too much, slowing your movement down and making it way easier to hit headshots on you. Ashe's kit is otherwise pretty great, and her long range damage is good, but the reason why she loses out to other ranged heroes is because of her head hitbox. It's already pretty big for such a skinny hero, and when you slow yourself down even more while aiming down sights is even easier to take advantage of. Staying scoped in isn't always necessary anyway, and you're better off switching between hipfire and ADS to get more damage per second done. Next up is Bastion, another high damage shooting hero, but the most common mistake for Bastion isn't bad ability usage or even bad positioning, but rather the timing of your ultimate shots. Artillery strike can be used before or during the fight. Both have good value, but unless you're being rushed by the enemy team and you're trying to get the shots off before you die, be more patient with your shots, instead of carpet bombing an area ahead of time. It's really easy to miss all your shots if you focus on zoning an area instead of actually aiming for the center on your targets. And because the ultimate does have a pretty high skill ceiling, make sure to not waste it by throwing out all your shots in a predictable sporadic pattern. For the Cassidy players still with us, make sure that you're not throwing your magnetic grenade out at too long of a range. Its real value lies in its utility instead of its damage. If you just use it as an easier to hit bullet past 15 meters, it's not going to get much done, since usually it won't hit at all, and if it does, it's much harder to capitalize when they're further away and can slip behind cover, making it harder to chase and confirm the kill. It's got a longer cooldown now, a definitely pretty undeserved nerf, so you'll be punished way more for using it frivolously, so keep it on hand for situations where it can shut down flankers or even look to go aggressive to use it on mobile backliners like Lucio or Kiriko. Next up is Echo, and her problem is related to her ultimate, similarly to Bastion. Echo's duplicate is like a second burst of energy. A lot of players fly into the enemy, dump a lot of cooldowns, and then copy the best hero they can find and keep fighting. Although using your ultimate to extend your fight is optimal, it's a very good play, you have to avoid putting yourself in danger and forcing yourself to use the duplicate to survive when you do have it. Echo's duplicate builds really fast, but in exchange for not being as strong as before since you're getting less ultimates charged overall. Going in with the intent to use your ultimate doesn't always need to be super aggressive, and it's best that you set up a normal assassination from a flank and then use your ultimate to chase further instead of taking on the team from the front and then tanking a bunch of damage when you copy after dumping your abilities. Just like with Winston, going in deep because you have a second life with your primal isn't the best way to use it. It'll get you a lot more focus and make your ultimate's effectiveness much worse. Next up is Genji, and with a long history behind the hero, there are plenty of mistakes that you can fix easily right now. But one of the best ones to fix is actually a bad habit that a lot of Genjis pick up after being met with the harsh truth that a lot of heroes look to punish you whenever you dash in. Too many Genji players don't dash in looking for picks anymore, and are instead waiting for opportunities to present themselves, mostly to avoid getting trolled when you dive. But Genji can make opportunities himself. He's a hero that has the potential to get picks and one-shot heroes with a dash engage, and well-placed shurikens. You always have your deflect to help you stay alive, so it's really important that you're giving yourself the opportunity to go in often. Moving on to Hanzo, the biggest mistake is definitely in Storm Arrow usage. Hanzo's Storm Arrows do a ton of burst damage and are mostly used on tanks to blow them up unexpectedly. However, it's not the ideal play all the time and can sometimes backfire, feeding ult charge and then letting them push on you later. And Storm Arrows are actually underutilized when it comes to cross-map picks, one of the big reasons why people play Hanzo in the first place. You don't have to only rely on your normal charged up shots to get picks, since your Storm Arrows travel at the same speed as them anyway, without the charge up time. Because you can shoot your Storm Arrows so fast, sending 5 at them at a long range target isn't a problem at all, and often you'll find picks happening, no problem. Hanzo is still a sniper after all, just not the classic one that you think of when you hear the word. Next up, the biggest mistake is Junkrat is also an underutilization of his kit. Most times you can't rely on spam damage to control choke points, because heroes like Sigma and Orisa just tank right through it and close the distance for their team. Instead of spamming just from main, look for off angles and flanks constantly, not just going in for flanky one-shots, but switching up your angle from your team so you can get more confirmed damage in on your opponents. A Junkrat on a flank angle is so difficult to deal with because he can protect it with his trap, making it harder to punish. And the damage he puts out is definitely respectable. Just make sure to practice aiming with it too. The Junkrat skill ceiling is immeasurable because of it. Mei is back to a more regular pick rate, and can even be considered a really strong hero right now. With how many heroes and abilities counter Blizzard, getting value out of it is definitely a common problem. The biggest issue that you can fix right now is being too overeager to throw your Blizzard out, and taking so much damage that you're forced to ice block right after it comes out. Not only does rushing the ultimate risk you getting your ultimate cancelled in the first place by just dying, but it means you're missing out on speeding up the Blizzard freezing effect with your primary fire. For the heroes that you actually can catch with your Blizzard without them using their mobility to get out, any speed boosting effect will get them out of harm's way before the freeze effect activates, unless you use your primary fire to speed up the process. Don't miss out on those Blizzard kills. On some parts of the map and against some heroes, it's a really difficult ultimate to counter, despite there being a lot of options. It's time for one of the hard picks, Pharah, since no matter what you do, she's in a pretty tough spot right now. You definitely still need a Mercy with her, so my best advice is to stay on the move, as much as you can, since with how many hit scan heroes are good right now, it's going to be really easy to get marked and kept track of. Rotate often and stick to cover. Pharah actually has a much better chance of winning in a close-range duel, so you can even use close areas to your advantage if you can approach them without dying. It's hard to play against everyone focusing you, so keep playing for your life, poking and baiting enemies to come duel you. Doing this helps massively at splitting the attention of the enemy team, as long as you survive. If you die, that's one less threat for them to keep track of. When you do have a mercy pocket, you can win a lot of duels, considering you are 2 players. But if you don't, try to play more for the ultimate engages. Without any other aggressive move to distract the enemy team, you'll be blasted out of the sky the second you take to it. Reaper is also a tough one, but with Malgard coming soon, maybe he's got a spot reserved in the talent comp, when all-in rush becomes a bit better. The biggest mistake Reaper players make is definitely focusing the tank too much. Reaper has a good spot in the front line, but because he puts himself in danger to deal damage, unlike heroes who are more defensive or can deal the same amount of damage from a further distance, he definitely can get punished easily. Just like Genji and sometimes Junkrat, you're going to have to go for hits on the backline to switch up the pressure you're putting on the enemy, since if the healers are all focused on the tank, you can surprise them with a duel to the death, while you still have your Wraith form to escape. Next up is Sojourn, a top-tier all-rounder hero. Just make sure you don't fly too close to the sun. Sojourn has a lot of aggressive potential, but she's still easy to kill without her power slide. The one weakness she's got is that after her rail shot, it takes a long time for her to reach enough charge to get a kill, compared to Hanzo or Ashe who can one-shot you at any point during the neutral. You can't always get consistent kills if you push too aggressively. Try to use your dash mostly defensively or to take high ground. Just dashing forward to catch people off guard can often leave you in no man's land, where you won't have cover to survive. Going aggressive onto a high ground is fine, like from the middle of Colosseo up to the mini high ground. The only thing you'll want to avoid is using your dash to push forward to a risky position, just for the sake of pushing to hit more shots. Soldier 76 seems like the hero nobody can really get wrong, and honestly, it's kind of true. But he's also a hero who can get stuck in the front line when he has the mobility and burst damage to get a lot of surprise kills on the back line. Switching up between main and flanks is a common tip for most range damage heroes with a bit more utility and mobility than Bastion, and Soldier is no exception. Just keep avoiding tunnel vision, since Soldier's high damage can be pretty wasted on tanks. It's a lot easier to manage tank cooldowns when the damage you're taking is as sustained as Soldier's is, compared to the more bursty effects that can mess up the enemy's tempo. A hero that has a lot of mistakes now that she's got a rework is Sombra, and her new playstyle definitely lends itself to more risky plays. Avoid playing so close during your engage, when you go for a hack, virus, and kill, so you don't always have to use your translocator reactively to escape. It's much better to use cover and even different elevations between high grounds to make a soft disengage towards the end of your fight. The extra safeguard makes it much harder to chase you after your ensuing escape, and it also means that whoever's trying to peel you has to go out of their way to do so, instead of just sitting on their backline defending them forever. Moving on to Symmetra, who without her old health pool is a lot more fragile when running in with her close range beam. Don't spend all your time with your beam, since your secondary fire damage is good enough, and the real thing that you should be abusing over putting yourself in danger in the front line too often is the projectile size. With moderate practice, it's really easy to hit, and at full charge, which only takes 1 second, you can 2-tap 200 health heroes. On to the final 3, starting with Torbjorn. Torb's main kit is pretty linear, just like Soldier with the extra turret to play around. The most common mistake, or more accurately misuse of his abilities, comes from his ultimate. Most players just throw out all their lava shots immediately, covering an area as fast as they can so they can get back to shooting. Instead, take your time to accurately place your lava pools to lock in a zoned area, since randomly shooting is more likely to either not cover a large enough area or leave gaps for heroes in the danger zone to escape. You don't need to spend the entire duration precisely placing your goopy puddles, but it's definitely worth placing all thin shots with more direction. Tracer is a hard hero, and you're bound to make mistakes with how strong yet fragile she is. Just like with Genji, it's easy to get into bad habits. Using your blink melee recall combo to finish off targets is great for adding to the explosiveness of her kit, but when you're low on blinks, you're much better off using that blink for another dodge or simply escaping to recharge more of your abilities. Wasting a blink just for 30 damage that can do so much more for your damage uptime and survivability is understandably not always good. Keep an eye on your resources before you automatically go for it. And finally, on to Widowmaker. Her new SMG makes for a stronger defense against dives, but you have to avoid sticking to one fire type, instead weaving them in during your duel with a diver. For example, against Tracer, you'll always lose if you just SMG, but going for the scoped in shot can also make you vulnerable, slowing your movement down and making it easier to line up shots. With the new SMG change, making it a lot more accurate at the start of the burst, you can do a lot more confirmed damage when you start shooting, but it quickly turns to the high spread most Widowmakers are used to, a lot more difficult to use in the duel. Try to go for an initial damage burst with your SMG into a low charge scope shot, and then rinse and repeat when you're under a lot of pressure. Widow always has a chance to go for the scoped in kill for a one-shot, but it's very risky. Go for it often enough that you can still apply your mechanics and learn them in further, but don't underestimate your new SMG utility. That's it for one mistake for each damage hero and how to fix them. Stay tuned to the channel for more, and I'll see you next time. If you're looking for more content to grind out your favorite heroes, use the link in the description to get access to a GameLeap membership. The GameLeap website has tons of guides and courses that cover any kind of knowledge and skills you might need across all roles, and even the best ways to play newer game modes and styles of play.